Hi, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be building this cedar coat rack. You can build this out of 3 fence pickets. This one here, I'm building it for my house specifically. I have it 15 overall from top to bottom is 15 and a half, and it's 24 3/4 wide across the top. Because I had a specific spot I wanted it that goes out right beside the door going out to our back porch. We want to hang our binoculars and stuff on it. We wanted a little coat rack shelf for that area. I built one of these bigger, 30 inches by 18, and for the market, and sold it. And it sold the second time I took it. The lady gave me exactly what I was asking for it. I sold it for $120. I'm going to show you exactly how I built it. This one here, I stained it cherry, and it's got a coat of wipe-on polyurethane over top of that. And on the back of it, I did use my pocket hole, and I screwed it together with a pocket hole. It's all glued too. I got these brass key slot holders that I put on. I'll show you those. I'll give you a link to those. I'll show you how I installed them. This is a project that I definitely know will sell at market. So if you're someone that sells stuff, I go to a market every Saturday and we sell stuff. I haven't really done videos on that with my channel too much. I've got a few shop videos, but not too much in depth. So I want to start expanding my channel a little bit and actually showing you a build a week or every other week that that I build and actually take to the market. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to ask for it and let you know how it sells. This will be the second year I've done that, so I kind of have an idea what does and doesn't sell in my area and what I can actually ask for them. Now this one here, at the size that this one is here, I would probably ask $75 for it. And I figure I could get that pretty well for something this size. And you could also, with this, you could just take in this shelf here and maybe raise it up a little and put a second shelf in here and put a little small dowel rod, and you can make a nice spice rack. If somebody wanted it for a kitchen, it would be great in a kitchen for a spice rack. You could still have these hooks here to hang like pot holders and towels, kitchen towels on, or you could even put a bigger dowel rod where they can, and just make it where they can hang regular towels on it. It would be great in a bathroom if you wanted it to hang towels in a bathroom or put on the wall behind a toilet or something. A bedroom. So you can modify this really easy just by making it a little bit bigger or smaller. I'm going to show you exactly building this. I think this is a nice size for a lot of people. And then if you take it to the shop or market, I mean, you could take orders. If someone said, well, I like that, but could you make it bigger? Yeah, it'd be easy to make it bigger and change the sizing on it. But I think this is a great size to start with. So I'm going to do a full video on how I build it, a link to everything I use, and stay tuned to the end, and I'll show you it on the wall in our house and how it looks. All right, over here we got our cedar fence pickets. I went and got a few. I'm going to take them and I'm going to rip them down to 5 1/4 inches on the table saw. I want them to be 5 1/4 because I can do 4 of them and that'll give me 21. And also I want the edges to be nice and straight, so when I put them together they'll fit together better. I don't have a joiner, so we're going to use the table saw. I'm going to set this to 5 1/4, and I'll rip the opposite side off to the length, but I want both sides ripped off so I got a nice straight edge on both sides of it. Alright, I got the one side ripped off of it to give it a straighter edge. Set my fence at 5 1/4. And then I'm going to rip it down. This is the side I just ripped, so I'll flip it over and I'll rip the opposite side. So this should already have a nice straight edge, so I'll rip the opposite side. Alright, one thing I did decide to do here is I want this edge to be nice. It's kind of rough. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and cut this off straight. And then after I do that, I'm going to come down. I'm going to measure down 1 inch and over 1 inch and draw a line. And then I'm going to cut those off. And I'm going to put the little dog ears here, call it back on it. Because I want that look, but I don't want this roughness. So I'm going to... Okay, what I did here, this is the same board. I already cut it out. what I did was I went over and I cut my 15-inch piece out of it. And when I did that, I marked it. I made a jig here, or a stop block, I mean, so that when I run it up, my next one up, I can just run it up to my stop block, cut them out. They're all going to be the same length. We got our 4 pieces here. As you can see, I just got them sitting here together. But with ripping them down on the table saw, you can see they give you, you can get a pretty nice tight fit without the joiner. Okay, what I got here is I set up my miter saw after I got them all cut. There's the line we're wanting to cut off of that. I set it to a 45 degree on my saw, and I put a little spacer block behind it, and then I'll cut right across that, and then I'll flip it and cut the other side. I got all these dog ear corners cut off. See, that's the look we're going to go with. And we're going to get ready to do the glue up. One thing I'll say here is this is plain old non-stick great value parchment paper. I put that down on the bottom just so when I glue up I don't get it on my tabletop. So if you don't have anything fancier, plain old parchment paper will work fine. And if it gets stuck to the back of these, you can peel most of it off, and then you can just hit it with a sander and get the rest of it off, so it's easy to get off there. So we're going to get these glued up, and let them set till they dry, clamp them and let them dry and be fine. I'm going to glue mine and clamp it, but I'm going to go ahead and put some pocket holes in mine too. But one thing I will show you what you could do is, before you glue them, take you a straight edge and put across there to make sure everything's nice and straight. So that you want to make sure that all your cuts here come together. Okay, I got my Craig out. If you don't have one of these, like I said, you could just glue it. One of the things I was going to say though is Beaver has come out with some pocket holes that look like pretty nice ones, and they're a whole lot cheaper. I'm thinking about buying one of them and getting a nicer one, and if I do, I'll do a video on that and let everyone know what I think of it. But for right now, I'm going to use, I have this one. And one of the things, if you haven't bought one and you do want to get one, these things here you push up and down and they slide. And it tells you for a 1/2 inch board, 3/4, 1.5. Well, 1.5 would be like your 2x4s, 2x6s, whatever. One thing you do want to make sure is you do set this to the board thickness. These fence pickets are probably about a 5/8 thick, but the 1/2 inch works. It will work is where you want that. You do make sure you set these, because if you don't, your screws will go clean through. And you also, here's your drill that you drill them out with, and it has settings on here too for the 1.5, 3/4, and a 1/2 inch. So it's got a little Allen key there. You loosen that, you slide this up and down to where you want it, and make sure you change these when you change different thicknesses of boards before you drill them out. And then it'll tell you on here different screw sizes, which ones you want to use for what thickness. For what I'm doing for this, I'll use the 1 inch for the 5/8 board. Okay, so what I did here is I took all my boards and I flipped them over and turned them. So this one would have been over here anyway, so this will be the back side. And I made sure the way I flipped them so they line up the same. When I flip them back over, they'll line up exactly the way I had them. So now your one's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, where it was 1, 2, 3, 4. So you flip them. So what I did is I'm going to put 3 Craig screws in each one of these. 2 inches from up, 2 inches down from this top, and then 1 right in the middle of that. So what I did with this being 15 inches, I went 2 inches, 7.5 inches, 13 inches. All right, so we're over here, and I got it all set up here. You know, here's my lines where I want my different screws, and I made these lines long enough that I'll show you so you can see it through the Craig. I'll show you here. So what I'm doing with this is I'll line it up on that line. It goes all the way into the board. There's where your drill bit goes in. There's 2 slots, and this is like a spacer. That way if you want to put 2 screws in something you're really anchoring, you can. This one could be drilling out this bottom, through the bottom one. And what I do, when I line it up so that you want it straight on with the line you did, see there's your pencil mark. So you can just look in here and line your pencil mark up, and you know you're straight on your line. And when you, I'm going to clamp this. When you clamp it, we're going to put a clamp here. Don't put the clamp over this, because that's where your sawdust from your drill bit and all. So you don't want to have your clamp covering up that hole. So now we're going to set that back up here. Make sure I got her lined up dead center of that. I want this tight up against the board. Clamped her down pretty tight so she won't move. See, there's your nice hole. And I'll do it with this one and this one up here. And I'll be back in a minute. We'll get a nice amount of glue on this. I just use my fingers. We want a good amount of glue, and we're going to have plenty of squeeze out. That's why we got our water bottle and our shop towels over here. We're going to line this back up, make sure that they're lined up tight up here. This is our 1-inch Kreg screws. I can put a link to all these things at the bottom of our video. Now that we're all lined up and everything's lined up good, we want to make sure that this is pushed down, like I said, because this is the back, so we want to push it down so it's tight and flat on the front. Go ahead and put a... You don't want to over tighten these, because this being cedar, it's soft. So you're just going to snug these pretty much, and they're going to hold, because if you try to over tighten them, you're just going to strip out the wood, because cedar is pretty soft. Now, if we were just going to clamp this, if you don't have a Kreg and you're not doing this and you just want to clamp it, then we would, when we glue this up and get them all together, then I'd come back and I'd put a big clamp on them. I'd put at least a couple clamps on them. So what I'm going to do before I go any farther is this first panel, I want to flip it and make sure it's nice and flat. Get my squeeze out off of it. Okay, we're back. I got it all, everything glued and clamped with our Kreg, with our pocket holes. We're nice and even on this side. This side here is nice and even too. But like I said, if it wasn't, you could take and run it across after you're done. You could, if you're using a handsaw, you could do that, or even a sander, or you can just take it and run it across your table saw and cut it all at one time, get a nice straight edge. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sand this down. I don't want it really smooth because it's cedar, and I want to keep that kind of that rough, natural look. But I want to get all this fuzzy stuff off of it. So I'm going to use... this is a 40 grit, or 40 grit is what I have, but you could use an 80 grit or something like that, a rough sandpaper, and just kind of knock the edge off of it, and it'll kind of get anything that's up a little. Alright, I'm back. I got this all sanded the way I wanted it. It's nice and smooth. As smooth as I want it. Like I said, I'm not going to do no 120, 220, nothing like that. I don't want that kind of finish. I want it to have more of the rustic farmhouse look to it, is what we're going with. We're good up here. All of our joints look good. We're good down here. Okay, I'm back. One thing I want to talk about today is hanging it. Are these little things right here. And I'll put a link where you can order them if you're interested. This is a keyhole, but instead of cutting it with your router, they're brass. You just put them on, you mark where you want them. And I'm going to have to take a Forstner bit and drill it down just a little bit so they sit flush. I'm going to flush mine in. And then what you do is you'll mark them, and then I'll take a drill and drill it out a little bit, screw them in, and then they'll make... These are a lot stronger for the cedar. All right, I'm back here. I got everything set up here. I'm going to come down 3 inches from the top with mine. So what I'm going to do is I'll come down 3 inches over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to do me a straight. Right here. Yeah, straight. So I came down 3 inches on both sides, and let's see, and 2.5. We'll come in 2.5 on both sides, make a mark. All right, we'll line these up. So I'll show you what I did here. We came in 2.5, I came down 3. I'm going to line that in perfectly in that center. Take my pencil and I'm going to mark this. And after I do that, we'll take my Forstner bit, and it's a 1 inch Forstner bit, and I'm going to drill out a little slot, just enough so this will set in flush. A little punch. I'm going to go slow and easy with this. Put that in the slot, just like that. So it's nice and flush, and I'll make sure it's perfectly straight. So I'm going to drill this one out too, and then I'll be right back. Okay, now what we're going to do, we got this set. We got it set to where we want it. We're going to take a pencil, and we're going to mark the hole here. Where it is. I'm going to mark the whole thing pretty good. So what you're going to do is, you don't want to drill where our screws goes on to hold our plates in, but we want to drill this down so that we see our keyhole here. We got to drill that out so that our screw can inset. So here's what we're going to do. This. We're just drilling that down enough to where you think whatever screw you're going to use to hang it, or would be used to hang it, will have enough clearance to sit down in there flush. I'll take and trim that up a little bit with the chisel. Okay, so once you sit that back in there, oops, sorry, you can have something that looks kind of like that. You can see how that's chiseled out, where your screw's going to go. So we got it all set. Put the 2 little brass screws in here. We can see how it is on here. Okay, what I did was, I went in and remeasured where I wanted mine, and I decided I cut mine down to 14 7/8. So I just ran it across my table saw and got a straight edge, and I took it from 15 down to 14 7/8. So what I'm going to do is I got to cut the 2 side pieces, and we're going to cut them at 14 7/8 because they're going to go from the top, and we want them to be flush with this down here on the sides. And then I'll cut at angle and slant them, and I'll show you what all I'm going to do with that. And then we'll cut a piece across the top. So let's go ahead and let's get the sides cut first. We're going to cut them at 14 7/8. We're going to cut 2 of them. Okay, I got my 2 side pieces cut at 14 7/8. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rip them down to 4 inches for the sides. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the table saw here, and I'm going to rip both of these side pieces down to 4 inches. I got the two side pieces cut down to 4 inches, and they're the same length as these, which is 14 7/8. Now what I'm going to do is, from the bottom down here at the bottom, I'm going to come up, I think 3 inches. Come up 3 inches from the bottom, and then I'm going to go back 2 inches and make a mark, and then I'm going to draw a straight line across. And I did that on both sides, and I'm going to cut this piece off on both sides. All right, I'm going to do that, and then I'll be right back. All right, so we're back over here. Our 2 side pieces with their 55-degree cuts on each one. So now we're going to cut a top piece, and I'm going to let this top piece overlap about 1 inch on both sides, and maybe 1 inch in the front. So let me get the board here. We'll get some measurements. I'm going to get this top piece cut. I'm going to cut it 24 3/8 long because I want to go 1 inch overhang on both sides. And I'm going to let it stick out about 1 inch out in the front. So I'm going to cut it 5 inches, rip it 5 inches. This piece right here, 4 3/8. Okay, here's our 24 3/8. Here's our length. And we're going to rip it down to 5 inches. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a shelf to go in here. We're going to go, it's 21 inches on the inside. And I'm going to make it, I don't want it to come all the way out to the edge. I want to leave a little bit. So this is 3 3/8. So I'm going to make it about 3 inches thick. So I'm going to rip it, cut it at 21 and rip it down to 3 inches. And that's going to be our shelf to put in there. Okay, we're back. We got our shelf ripped and cut. That'll be our shelf. And like I said, I didn't want it to come all the way out to the end because I kind of like that look where it sits inside. So we got that. And then now I'm going to take and cut. I'm going to cut a band strip and put across here. That'll be where I'm going to mount the hooks on, the coat hooks onto. All right. So it'll be 21 inches by 2 inches. All right. This is starting to look like our shelf once we get all this hooked together. Okay, I'm putting the sides on. I'm using my glue on there, and I glued the strips and I put it in place. I hold this in place. After I glued it, I'm going to use brad nails. Then I'll do this one. Do 1 1/8 overhang on both sides. Make sure it's all flush in the back. Go ahead and get some brad nails in it. I'll get one on each side and hold it in place. in here and clean up any squeeze out that got in here, so we can stain this on the inside. All right, the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is put our shelf in. I'm going to bring my shelf down 6 inches here and put some marks at 6 inches. Yeah, that's a nice tight fit. So that gives you a nice tight fit even with this. All right, I got it set in there and got it glued. So I'm gonna put some brad nails in it. Put one in each side. Then what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to come down 6 3/4 from the top. Put a mark, a couple marks. And I'm going to do this so I can put some brad nails into the back. Make sure I don't miss my board. All right, we got our shelf in. We glued it. We brad nailed it from both sides and pinned it. We brad nailed, put a line so we know where to brad nail across the back so we don't miss our board or shelf. So now we're going to put our bracket piece in across here. We're going to, let's see, come up about 2.5 inches from the bottom. All right, I'm changing my brad nails. I was using 1.5 inches on everything else. On this piece here, I'm going to use 1 inch. That way it don't go through the back. We're going to glue this good. Don't worry about smearing it down. 3 inches. 3. This is, we're going to put our 4 hooks right here. But before I do anything, I've done sanded everything. I pre-sanded it before I put it together. And we got everything put together. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stain it. And then after I stain it, then I'll put my hooks on. But I'm going to stain it first. So I'm going to stain it with a Minwax Cherry. This is an old base. I'm going to use that, and then I'll probably use a wipe-on poly or something on it. All right, we're going to start putting our stain on. Everything's been sanded. I think this cherry's going to look pretty good on here. Okay, we got our stain, got the hooks on it. We did that with the cedar, or the cherry stain on the cedar. We put these hooks here, just put 4 of them on here. I think it looks pretty good. Now I'm going to let it sit here till tomorrow, and I'm going to probably put a wipe-on poly on here. I'll go ahead and show you. This is the Minwax Premium Oil. This is a cherry, a 286 that I used on this. And after I did that on, wiped it on, wiped and let it dry, then I went over it with this Minwax Premium Oil Wipe-On Polyurethane. And that gave it a really nice finish, and it'd be fine for inside your house. Now you could get this, I have this in cherry. I like the cherry because one thing is our trim in the house is cherry, so it matches perfectly with our trim around our doors and windows. But I also have this in oak and walnut, and those are really nice colors too. So depending on what color you wanted it, you could use either one. Or you could paint it. If someone wanted it for someone specific, you could paint this really easy and dress it up, make it look farmhouse or whatever you wanted to do with that for coloring. Cedar's pretty versatile. Here's our little cabinet on the wall after I got it built. I want to try to do more videos with things like this. So tune in, like, subscribe, give me some comments of what you think or anything else you'd like me to see me build, and we'll catch you on the next one.